If you've ever been inside Philadelphia National Airport on a winter morning, then you kinda know the vibe already. Loud, messy, everybody layered up like walking marshmallows, and the PA system yelling delays like it's reading out grocery coupons. But that morning, yeah, no. That morning felt wrong the second you stepped through the sliding doors. You had crowds pushing past each other, boots slushing melted snow into puddles, coffee spilling on jackets nobody had washed since Thanksgiving. Over by Terminal B, a couple was arguing about whether they'd missed their Miami flight. Behind them, some guy kept shaking his phone, like that would magically bring back the Wi-Fi. It was chaos. Normal chaos. Airport chaos. No one had a clue that in about, 10 seconds? The whole damn building was going to freeze like somebody slammed a cosmic pause button. Anyway, 8:42 a.m. That's when everything snapped. And it started with a dog. Not just any dog. K9 Atlas, a 90-pound German shepherd with a stare sharp enough to slice concrete and a loyalty record longer than Cole Warren's entire service jacket. Cole's his handler. Big dude, broad shoulders. Looks like he wrestled a bear once and apologized to the bear for hurting its feelings. They were doing a slow patrol near the north security lanes. Nothing fancy. Standard walk and sniff. Cole sipping burnt airport coffee and Atlas trotting beside him like the goodest soldier on earth. And then, man, I swear it happened so fast nobody even processed it. Atlas jerked. Not a small tug. Not a, hey, I smell something weird kind of pull. No. It was like something invisible grabbed him by the spine and ripped him forward. Cole almost dropped his cup. The leash snapped straight like a guitar string. Atlas! Heel, heel, Atlas, heel! But the dog wasn't listening. Not even a little. And his bark, oh God, that bark. You know how glass sounds when it cracks in slow motion? Or how a fire alarm pierces your skull when you're hungover? Double those. Now stuff them inside a bomb and let it explode inside a metal tunnel. That was Atlas's bark. Every head turned. Every conversation died. It felt like the air itself got punched. 1 second later, the entire airport detonated into panic. A toddler dropped his teddy bear and started screaming. A woman near the escalator yelled, "What is happening?" Someone spilled a full latte onto their boots and didn't even notice. TSA officers whipped around like they'd been slapped. But here's the part that people still talk about. The part that gets replayed in every retelling. Atlas wasn't running at random. He wasn't chasing a sound or a scent drifting through the crowd. He was locked onto one spot. Like a missile. A living missile with teeth and instincts older than civilization. And right at the center of where he was headed was a little girl. A tiny thing. 7 years old. Messy brown hair tucked under a knitted beanie. Blue coat zipped all the way up like it was swallowing her. And her arms wrapped around a bright lemon-yellow backpack. Her name was Ava Carter, though nobody knew that yet. To them, to all of us, she was just the kid standing exactly where Atlas was sprinting. People didn't move at first. They were too shocked to process anything beyond pitch first. Big dog, loud noise. But when Atlas hit full sprint, claws screeching across the tile, something primal kicked in. A wave of bodies lurched backward, like someone dropped a grenade. I'm not exaggerating. Grown adults shoved each other out of the way, dragging their kids, stumbling behind pillars, leaving suitcases abandoned like they were radioactive. The world didn't see a child. It saw a threat, a bomb, a living, breathing disaster wrapped in pink gloves and a yellow backpack. And Ava, God, she just stood there, not screaming, not running, just standing, frozen, eyes wide like she was trying to understand why everyone suddenly backed away like she was contagious. The circle around her expanded in seconds, 10 feet, 15, maybe more, until she was completely alone in the middle of the terminal. A spotlight without a stage. A target without knowing she was one. Then she whispered something, barely audible, but the whole airport felt it, even if we didn't hear it. Did I do something wrong? And that? That was the moment the fear turned cruel. Because the second Ava's voice broke, Atlas barked again, louder, harsher, like he was ripping the sound straight from his lungs, and people bolted. "Run!" someone shouted. "Get back!" a TSA agent yelled. Coffee cups dropped. Phones bounced. A suitcase toppled and rolled across the floor, like an abandoned stroller in a disaster movie. Ava clutched her yellow backpack tighter, like it was her last safe thing. And Cole, poor Cole, was being dragged like he was tethered to a locomotive. "Atlas, stop! Stop!" But Atlas kept going, head low, teeth bared, muscles coiled like he was seconds from launching himself into the sky. And in that moment, that single breath-crushing second, nobody thought about logic. Nobody remembered training. Nobody cared about facts. They all thought the same thing. That kid is carrying something that's about to end us. And maybe the worst part? Even Ava felt it too, because the second Atlas locked onto Ava, really locked on. Everything just snapped. Cole didn't even get half a second to think. Atlas lunged so violently that the leash whipped sideways, and Cole's hand, poor guy, got dragged across the metal buckle. A dry tear, a split, and suddenly there was blood. Not dramatic Hollywood blood, no. Just those thin, sharp streaks that sting like hell and drip way too fast because your skin didn't expect to be sliced open on a random Tuesday morning. "Ah, damn it," Cole hissed, clenching the leash harder, trying to dig his boots into the slick tile. But Atlas? Atlas wasn't slowing down. If anything, the dog was accelerating like somebody hit a hidden throttle under his ribs. And then, right when Cole was about to lose his grip entirely, TSA screamed, not yelled, not called out. They screamed it. "Lockdown! Level 4! Level 4! Lockdown! Now!" If you've never heard that phrase inside an airport, good. You never want to. It's the kind of announcement that turns grown men into stampeding buffalo and turns moms into linebackers shoving their way through crowds like their kids' lives depend on it. Because honestly, that's exactly how it feels. Instantly, the world detonated. People didn't just run. They scrambled, tripping over suitcases, stepping on coats, losing shoes, slamming into posts. Someone fell and 3 people tripped over him before they realized he wasn't luggage. A woman with a stroller yanked her baby up with one arm and practically carried the stroller with the other. Some guy yelled, "It's a bomb!" Another yelled, "Get away from the kid!" Someone else shouted something about God and the end of the world, and yeah, it was bad. And all this time, Ava, man, Ava wasn't even moving. She just stood there, frozen, like a little statue dropped right into the center of a disaster movie. Atlas barreled toward her, a streak of black and tan fur and muscle and pure instinct. Cole was practically skiing across the floor behind him, boots dragging, blood dripping in a thin, dotted line. "Atlas, hold! Hold!" But the dog didn't even flick an ear. Then it happened. Too fast, too loud, too brutal. Ava stepped back. Just one tiny step. Maybe her knee buckled. Maybe someone shoved her. Maybe fear just pulled gravity out from under her. Either way, she fell. Not gracefully, not slowly. She fell like a kid who didn't know which way was up anymore. Arms flailing, feet skidding, her backpack slipping of her shoulder. And when she hit the ground, that sound, that soft, fragile thump, it cracked straight through the noise. Her little yellow backpack rolled halfway off her, the zipper trembling with each shaky breath she took. And then, as the entire airport leaned back like she was radioactive, her voice broke loose. I don't know what's happening. I don't know." The words didn't even form right. They came out in chopped little pieces, like her fear was strangling them on the way out. And that? Oh man. That's when the whole world felt it. You could almost hear hearts snapping in half, because this wasn't the cry of a guilty kid. This wasn't the cry of a dangerous kid. This was the cry of a little girl who genuinely had no idea why an airport full of strangers suddenly hated her. Cole saw her hit the floor, and his face changed. Just changed. Like something inside him twisted sideways. Hey, don't move. It's okay, sweetheart. It's Atlas, back. But Atlas didn't back down. He lowered his head even further, hackles up like prickled wire, teeth showing. Not attacking, no, but warning. Guarding. Refusing to let anything get between him and that backpack. Passengers saw the teeth and didn't care about nuance. They panicked harder. Someone actually yelled, "The dog's gonna detonate her!" Which, honestly, doesn't even make sense. But logic died about 5 minutes ago, so who cares? Ava scooted backward on her elbows, tears welling so fast she didn't even blink them away. "Please, I didn't do anything. I'm not bad. I'm not—" She tried to clutch her backpack, but her fingers were shaking too hard. Her hand kept missing the strap, like her brain and body stopped communicating. It was brutal to watch, like watching a kid apologize to a monster for existing. Atlas barked. Once, a violent chest-cracking blast that ricocheted off the ceiling. People screamed again. Someone bolted into a glass wall by accident. And right there, in the heart of the stampede, the alarms, the fear, the blood, the echoes. Ava curled her body around that yellow backpack like it was the last safe piece of the universe she had left. Cole managed to yank Atlas back half a foot. Barely. "AVA, look at me," he shouted. "It's okay. You're okay." But she wasn't looking at him. She wasn't looking at anyone. She was staring straight ahead. Through the crowd, through the hallway, through the terrified world around her. Like she was trying to find something familiar in a place that suddenly turned alien. And as the panic surged, as TSA sealed the terminal, as Cole fought to keep the dog from ripping free, the truth settled into the air like a weight no one could breathe under. This wasn't chaos anymore. This was something darker, something cruel. This was fear choosing the wrong child. Because Ava Carter wasn't dangerous. She was 7. She was scared. And she was completely alone in a circle of people who thought she carried the end of the world on her back. As wild as everything already was, the running, the screaming, the lockdown level 4, move, move, the dog losing his mind, Cole bleeding all over the shiny airport floor. None of that was the moment that broke people. No. That moment came quieter. Way quieter. It came after Ava hit the ground and pulled her yellow backpack into her chest like she was trying to make herself disappear. After the crowd backed away so far, they left a perfect empty circle around her, like some kind of invisible force field no one dared cross. And after Atlas's bark finally stopped echoing across the terminal, right then, the chaos didn't fade, but it shifted. Instead of fire, it turned into this cold, awful stillness. Like everyone suddenly realized they weren't looking at a threat. They were looking at a kid having the worst moment of her life. Ava's breath kept catching. You know that sound kids make right before they cry, but they're trying so hard to hold it in? That little shaky inhale that sounds like it might break them. Yeah. That one. Except multiplied by fear. Multiplied by confusion. Multiplied by 1,000 staring eyes. She tucked her face toward her knees, tiny fingers digging into the fabric of the backpack strap like she needed to anchor herself to something. Anything that wasn't this nightmare. And then she said it. Barely a whisper. Barely even a voice. "If I'm bad, I'm sorry." A pause. Too long. Too fragile. "I didn't mean to be bad." Man. You could feel the words crack as they came out. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. No, trembling Hollywood sob. Just this tiny broken confession. The kind a kid says when they think the world is punishing them and they don't understand why. And it hit hard, like someone dropped the temperature inside the terminal by 20 degrees. Like every adult there felt their chest cave in at the same time. A mom near the Starbucks gasped into her hands. A businessman in a gray coat stopped moving altogether, like someone unplugged him. An older woman whispered, "Oh, honey," even though she wasn't close enough to help. People who'd sprinted away like Ava was holding a detonator now stood frozen, guilt and shock spreading across their faces, because there's something about hearing a child apologize for existing that just cuts deeper than any alarm ever could. Cole swallowed hard. His expression shifted again, this time into something that looked a lot like heartbreak. He crouched down as much as the tension in the leash allowed, voice low but tight around the edges. Ava, hey, hey, sweetie. You're not bad. You didn't do... Atlas, easy. You didn't do anything wrong, okay? But Ava wasn't looking up. She kept her forehead buried in her arms like she thought if she hid hard enough, maybe the fear would let her go. Her shoulders trembled. Not violently, not dramatically. Just that quiet, repetitive tremble that says a kid is trying to hold themselves together with whatever pieces they've got left. And the crazy part? Atlas, the same dog who'd been roaring like a monster seconds ago, suddenly let out this tiny sound. A whimper. Soft. High. Barely a note. If you've never heard a K9 whimper when they're working, yeah, that's because they almost never do. These dogs are trained to push through gunfire, fire alarms, explosions, and still move forward. They don't whimper unless something hits a place instinct can't explain. Cole heard it, and his eyes snapped down to Atlas like, wait, what? Atlas wasn't staring at the bag anymore. Not really. His eyes were on Ava, on the way she curled into herself, on the fear rolling off her like waves he couldn't ignore. His ears lowered, just slightly. His posture shifted, still tense, still alert, but different. Protective. Conflicted. Like even he could feel that whatever danger he sensed wasn't the child. And that was the moment, right there, where the story flipped. You could see it ripple through the crowd, through the TSA agents frozen with their hands half raised, through the people hiding behind posts, through the ones clutching their kids too tightly. Every one of them realized the same thing. They'd been scared of the wrong thing, the wrong person, the wrong 7-year-old with the yellow backpack. Ava lifted her head a little, cheeks blotchy, eyes swollen, nose red, and she looked around like she expected someone to shout again, or run again, or call her something awful. But instead, everyone just watched. Quiet. Too quiet for an airport. Like they were all waiting for someone, anyone, to fix what fear had broken. Cole tried again, gentler this time, his voice cracking. Ava, sweetheart, look at me. You're okay. You didn't do anything wrong. I promise you. Her lip trembled, her throat bobbed, and she whispered, then, why is everyone scared of me? Cole opened his mouth, closed it, didn't know what to say. No one did. Because what do you tell a child when the truth is, fear made adults forget their humanity for a minute? Atlas whined again, louder this time, nudging forward like he wanted to go to her, to soothe her, to tell her with instinct what humans couldn't articulate. And maybe that's why the whole terminal went silent, because the only creature brave enough to see Ava clearly was the dog everyone thought was attacking her. Now let me ask you something, and answer honestly. If you were standing in that airport right then, would you have stepped closer to Ava, or backed away like everyone else? Choose one. A, B, or C. When the whole terminal was hanging in that weird, painful silence, you know, the kind where the air feels too thick to breathe, something shifted again. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong. It started with footsteps, slow ones, confident ones, way too calm for a place that looked like a war zone iced over. People parted before her without even realizing why, like their bodies knew something their brains hadn't caught up to yet. That's when she stepped out from the mess of panicked passengers. Miranda Hale. Brown hair in that neat, expensive-looking wave. Leather jacket zipped halfway. Boots that somehow weren't scuffed even though everyone else was slipping around like penguins on soap. And her walk. Yeah, it was off. Not scared. Not confused. Not even curious. Just steady. Like she knew exactly what she was walking toward. Cole saw her before most people did, and you could practically see his instincts snap up like a shield. His hand tightened on Atlas's leash. Well, the half-leash he still had left, and his eyebrows pulled together in that oh hell no way you see on cops right before something bad happens. But nobody else seemed to notice yet. Not until she crouched. She moved down slowly, too slowly, lowering herself right next to Ava in a way that felt rehearsed, almost staged, like she'd practiced this pose in a mirror. And then she did the thing that made every stomach in that terminal twist. She smiled. Not warm, not motherly, not relieved. A perfect smile. The kind you see on people who don't actually feel emotions. They just mimic them. "Oh, sweetheart," Miranda whispered, voice soft enough to make your skin crawl. "Are you okay?" Ava froze. Her whole body. Not just her shoulders or her breath. Everything. Like someone flipped a switch inside her and shut the lights off. The little girl didn't lift her head. But she felt that hand, that gentle-looking hand, land on her shoulder. At first it was soft, a light touch, comforting, if it came from the right person. But Miranda wasn't the right person. Her fingers tightened. Not enough to bruise, but enough to send a jolt through Ava's spine. Ava flinched so hard her shoes squeaked against the floor. And that's when it happened. Atlas didn't bark. He didn't whine. He didn't jerk. He growled. A sound so deep it didn't feel like it came from a dog. It felt like it came from the ground, from the pipes, from under the damn airport itself. It rattled the glass next to gate B5. It made a TSA agent stumble backward so fast he hit a trash can. Cole snapped his head toward Atlas. "Atlas! Hey! Hey!" he yelled, trying to reel him back. But Atlas wasn't listening. His eyes were locked onto Miranda like he recognized something no human in that building could detect yet. His gums peeled back, teeth flashing white. his entire body coiled forward, every muscle going tight enough to tremble. And Miranda? She didn't flinch. Not once. She just tilted her head the tiniest bit and said, still smiling, "It's okay. Mommy's here now." Mommy, yeah. She said that word like she owned it. Cole's face dropped. Not in confusion, in certainty. Because this woman? No way in hell she was Ava's mom. No mother walks into a level 4 lockdown without panic. No mother smiles at a trembling child like she's inspecting merchandise. No mother ignores a K9 locked in full defensive mode. And no mother grips a scared kid's shoulder with controlled pressure. Cole stepped forward, voice sharp. "Ma'am," he said, "I need you to back away from the child." Miranda didn't move, didn't look at him, didn't acknowledge the command at all. She kept her eyes fixed on Ava, brushing a loose strand of hair behind the girl's ear with a tenderness that didn't match a single thing happening in her face. Ava's breath hitched. You could see her chest shaking under her jacket. Atlas lunged 1 inch. Just one. But that inch was enough to send another officer stumbling backward like he thought the dog was about to tear the world open. Cole jerked the leash, nearly slipping on his own blood. "Atlas! Stay!" But Atlas wasn't staying. Not in his mind. Not in his instincts. He was protecting. And not from a bomb. And not from a stranger. From her. Miranda finally looked up, slowly, her smile still plastered on, like a sticker someone stuck on the wrong face. "Oh dear," she said sweetly. "There's no need for all this fuss." And Cole felt the bottom drop out of his stomach. He knew right then, right in that split second, where her mask slipped just enough for the truth to ooze through. This woman wasn't rescuing a child. She was hunting one. His voice hardened. "Ma'am," he said, "I'm going to say this once. Step away from the girl." Miranda's smile twitched, just barely, but she didn't move an inch. Atlas barked, a violent, explosive sound, and for a moment, the entire terminal braced like the ceiling might come down. Cole's bloodied hand tightened on the leash. He didn't know what Miranda Hale wanted. He didn't know why she touched Ava. He didn't know who she was pretending to be. But he knew one thing with absolute, bone-deep certainty. This was not a mother. This was a danger wearing a human face. Now let me ask you, honestly, if you had been there and seen that smile, that touch, that reaction from Atlas, would you have stepped between that woman and the kid? Or would you have backed off and waited to see what happened next? And the crazy thing? The moment Miranda refused to move, that exact second when Atlas's growl went from warning to, "I swear I will end you," that's when Cole realized he had no more time to guess, or hope, or pray this was some giant misunderstanding. He had to see what was in that backpack, right now, right in front of everyone. Because whatever Atlas smelled, whatever made that dog, that trained, disciplined, bomb-tested K9 lose his mind, was sitting 2 inches from a terrified little girl's chest. Cole's voice dropped, calm but sharp enough to split steel. Ava, he said, sweetheart, I need you to put your bag down, okay? Just, just slide it toward me. Ava didn't look up, didn't blink, didn't breathe right. Her fingers tightened on the yellow straps like she thought letting go would make the world collapse even faster. No, it's mine, she whispered, her voice cracking like a broken pencil. She said not to open it. She said it would ruin the surprise. And that sentence, God. You could almost hear the adults around her wince, because kids don't randomly talk like that. Kids don't get surprises that require this much screaming. Cole felt his stomach twist, but he stayed soft. Ava, he whispered, nobody's mad at you. You didn't do anything wrong. Just let me hold it for a second. That's all. Her hands trembled, hard. Her sleeves were damp from tears she didn't even have time to wipe. Finally, slowly, she loosened her grip. The backpack slid forward a few inches, scraping the tile with this tiny sound that somehow felt louder than the fire alarms blaring earlier. Cole reached out carefully, like he was trying to pick up a wild animal that might bolt or bite. Behind him, Miranda inhaled sharply. Not fear, not panic, annoyance. Atlas noticed instantly. His growl jumped an octave, chest rumbling so violently even Cole felt it vibrate through the leash. Atlas, easy, Cole muttered, though his voice wasn't very convincing. He picked up the backpack slowly, gently, like it might explode if he breathed on it wrong. The weight surprised him. Too heavy for crayons, too structured for snacks or books. Inside the fabric, something metal shifted. Just a tiny clink, barely a sound, but it chilled the air like someone opened a freezer in the middle of the terminal. Cole swallowed, wiped his bleeding hand on his pants, and called out to the closest TSA officer. Knife. Short. Firm. No room for debate. The officer handed him a slim inspection blade. Cole exhaled, a slow, steady breath that didn't match the chaos boiling around them. Ava, he said again, softer. I'm just going to look inside. You're okay. I promise. Her little fingers curled into fists. She nodded once. Barely. Cole slipped the blade under the bottom seam of the bag. And that's when everything went silent. Not literally. Not fully. But you know that moment before something terrible happens. That frozen breath where the universe holds still? Yeah. That. Sir, he whispered. That looks like an FAA uplink rig. Cole froze. Because an uplink rig? A hidden one? That wasn't something you find at Walmart. That wasn't something the average criminal could even identify. That was something used to talk to the sky, to interfere with it, to rewrite it. Ava blinked, confused. What? What does that mean? Nobody answered her. Nobody could. The TSA tech continued, voice hoarse. That device could make a plane vanish off radar, redirect flight paths, blind the tower. Someone in the crowd gasped. Another dropped their phone. Ava stared at the backpack, at the thing she'd been clutching like it was her favorite stuffed animal. Her eyes filled again. I didn't know, she whispered. She said it was a surprise. She said not to let anyone open it. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Atlas stepped back half an inch. Not fear. Recognition. A different kind of danger. A smarter one. A colder one. His ears pinned. His chest rumbled low. His stance widened. Ready. Not for a bomb, but for something far worse. Cole exhaled, staring into the dissected backpack like it was a doorway to hell. He didn't know who the she was Ava referred to. He didn't know how this tech got into a child's bag. He didn't know what the plan behind it was. But he did know one thing. With every bone in his body, Ava wasn't the threat. She was the target. And the person who put this inside her backpack? They weren't just dangerous. They were smart, patient, and still out there. Before anyone could even process what Cole had just pulled out of that backpack, before the crowd could gasp again, before Atlas could shift his weight like he was ready to take on the devil himself, another sound ripped through the chaos. Not a bark, not a siren, not the PA system yelling about gate closures. A scream, high, sharp, raw enough to scrape the paint off the walls. Ava, my baby, where's my child? Every head whipped toward the sliding doors near the check-in counters. A woman burst through them like someone had shoved her from behind, running so fast she almost face-planted on the polished floor, but didn't stop. She didn't even stumble. She just kept going, like her legs were powered by something more desperate than adrenaline. Dark blue hospital scrubs under a winter jacket half-zipped. Hair coming undone from a messy bun. Hands shaking so violently she could barely shove people aside. Dr. Lauren Carter, Ava's real mother. You could tell instantly. Not from her clothes, not from the badge clipped sideways on her scrub top, not from the frantic way she shoved past TSA yelling at her to freeze. You could tell because the terror on her face. It was the kind only a mother carries. The kind that comes from 2 days without sleep, running from police station to police station, begging for updates no one could give her. She screamed again, voice cracking. Ava! Ava, baby, answer me, please! A murmur rippled over the terminal. People stepped back. Some pressed their hands over their mouths. Ava lifted her head, slowly, like she didn't believe the voice was real. Then she saw her. Her entire body jerked. Time 800. Mommy, she breathed, almost too soft to hear. Lauren's knees buckled mid-run, like her bones forgot how to exist. But she somehow kept moving, sliding the last few feet across the tile. She dropped to the ground so hard her palms smacked the floor, but she didn't feel a thing. She lunged forward, wrapping both arms around Ava's tiny frame and pulling her so close it looked painful. Ava burst into sobs. Not the quiet tears from earlier. Not shame. Not confusion. This was the sound of a child collapsing into safety after thinking it would never come. "Mommy, Mommy," she said. "She said you told her to take me." Lauren froze. Her breath stopped. Her eyes widened like someone punched the air out of her lungs. "What?" she whispered, voice hollow, stunned, breaking. "What did she say to you?" Ava gulped air between sobs. "She said, you sent her. She said you were her friend, and you told her to take me. And... Her voice cracked into pieces. Lauren wasn't breathing anymore. Her chest moved, but nothing came in. Nothing went out. Then, like fear finally snapped into rage, she gathered Ava tighter, almost curling her body around her daughter like a shield. "No," Lauren choked out. "No. No one touches you again. You hear me? No one. No one." Her voice was a storm, a mother ripping herself apart with guilt and fury and relief all at once. The crowd felt it like a punch. Some looked away. Some wiped their eyes. Some whispered, pitch first, "Oh my God," under their breath. Even TSA agents, trained to stay stone-faced no matter what, blinked hard. Lauren cupped Ava's cheeks, her hands trembling violently. "Baby, look at me," she whispered. "You did nothing wrong. Nothing. You hear me? You're safe now. Mommy's here. Mommy's got you." Ava sobbed harder, burying her face in her mother's shoulder. Lauren folded around her, pressing her forehead to Ava's hair, whispering things too quiet for anyone to hear. Cole exhaled, a shaky, relieved breath he didn't even realize he'd been holding. Atlas took one slow step backward, easing his posture just a hair, enough to show he understood the shift, the safety, the truth finally entering the room. And Miranda? Miranda Hale watched the reunion with a cold, calculated expression, like she was studying something, not feeling it. Cole caught the look, and his stomach twisted. Because Miranda didn't flinch. She didn't panic. She didn't show 1 ounce of guilt. She watched a mother collapse around her daughter. The daughter she'd tried to take. The daughter she'd used. And she didn't blink. Lauren finally lifted her head, eyes red, cheeks wet, and scanned the space until she found Cole. "Officer," she rasped, voice shaking but sharp. Who touched her? Who took her? Who lied to her? Who? Her gaze hit Miranda, and the scream that came out of her throat wasn't human. You, what did you do to my child?" Cole stepped between them instinctively, raising a hand. "Doctor, Carter, Lauren. Stay with your daughter," he said. "We're handling her." But Lauren wasn't listening. Her fury was shaking her whole body. Ava clung to her. "Mommy, don't let her take me again. Please." Lauren crushed Ava into her chest. "Over my dead body," she whispered fiercely. The crowd felt their hearts tear open. This wasn't a reunion. This was resurrection. A mother reclaimed, a child returned, a bond reforged in the middle of absolute hell. And the worst part? Miranda Hale still hadn't said a word. Her silence was louder than any scream. If everyone thought they'd seen the worst this morning could offer, they were wrong. Because the moment Lauren clutched Ava like she was holding her whole world together with shaking fingers, something else cracked open. Not fear, not panic. Anger. Cole's anger. The kind you don't see on cops unless something has gone way, way past the line. He stood up slowly, way too slowly for a man whose blood was still dripping off his palm. And his face had that look, that tight, shaking, barely contained look, like he was trying really, really hard not to put Miranda through a wall. Atlas sensed it. His ears flicked, his tail stiffened, his body angled toward Miranda like he was picking up on the storm building behind Cole's ribs. Lauren was still rocking Ava, whispering things only a mother can say. Ava's tiny fingers were knotted into the front of her mom's scrubs, like she was terrified the universe might rip them apart again. And behind all of that, Miranda just stood there, relaxed, silent, breathing too calmly for what she'd done. That calm is what pushed Cole over the edge. His radio crackled, loud, sharp, slicing through the emotional haze like a blade. "Officer Warren, we need immediate clarification." Static. Then the words that made Cole's jaw flex so hard it looked painful. "Is the minor a potential threat?" Every person in earshot froze, like someone had punched oxygen out of the entire terminal. Ava's breath stuttered. Lauren's head snapped up. Atlas snarled. And Cole just stared at the radio like he couldn't believe what he'd heard. Like the question itself was an insult to every decent thing left in the world. He lifted the radio slowly, blood smeared across the plastic. He didn't speak into it. He roared into it. "The child is a victim!" His voice blasted through the terminal, raw, furious, echoing off every wall. A TSA agent flinched so hard he knocked over a barrier post. 2 passengers jumped back like the floor shook under them. Even the intercom above seemed to shrink into silence. Cole wasn't done. He slammed the radio so hard the static squealed. "The threat walks among us." It wasn't just anger. It wasn't just rage. It was truth. Heavy, sharp, impossible to ignore. The terminal didn't breathe. Every chest tightened. Every spine straightened. Lauren looked up from Ava's hair, and her eyes, God. Her eyes were no longer just terrified. They were the eyes of a mother who'd found the person that hurt her child. Eyes of someone who'd walk through fire for payback. She turned her head, very slowly, toward Miranda. That single look could have cut through armor. If hatred could make sound, the airport would have exploded. Miranda didn't move, didn't blink, didn't shift her weight. She just tilted her chin like she was bored, like none of this mattered, like she'd done this before. Atlas lowered his body another inch, the stance he took only when he was seconds from reaction. His growl wasn't loud now. It was low, steady, vibrating through the tile like a warning buried under the earth. Cole stepped between the women instinctively, one hand on Atlas's harness, the other still shaking, from adrenaline and fury. "Stay with your daughter," he told Lauren, voice tight but steady. His eyes flicked to Ava. "She's safe now. You're safe." Lauren pulled Ava closer, whispering, "Over my life. She's safe over my life." But her gaze never left Miranda, and Miranda had the nerve to smile. A small one, tight, barely a twitch at the corner of her mouth. The airport collectively recoiled. Cole's posture changed. Shoulders squared, eyes narrowed, jaw locked. It wasn't the look of someone doing their job. It was the look of someone whose soul said, "This ends now." TSA officers tightened their circle. Passengers pressed back against the walls. Phones slowly lowered from recording positions. Not because anyone told them to stop, but because something heavy, dangerous, electric had filled the air. The kind of feeling that comes right before lightning hits. Miranda finally spoke, soft, smooth, almost amused. "You're all being very dramatic." Lauren took a step forward before she even realized she was moving. Cole threw his arm out. "Don't!" But Lauren's voice, hoarse, cracked, soaked in trauma, tore through the air anyway. "She touched my baby. She lied to my baby. She tried to take her. And you want me to stand still?" No one breathed. Miranda's eyes slid to Lauren, sharp, cold, empty. Cole angled his body, blocking Miranda's view of the mother and child. His voice dropped to something darker than any bark Atlas had ever made. "You messed with the wrong kid," Cole said, staring Miranda down. "And the wrong mother, and the wrong damn airport." Miranda didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't say a word. And that silence? That was the scariest part of all. "Now you tell me, honestly, if you were Lauren, standing there shaking with fear and fury, would you have stayed behind Cole? Or would you have gone straight at Miranda without thinking twice?" The second Cole finished saying those words, "You messed with the wrong kid," something snapped in Atlas. Not fear, not aggression, purpose. Like the dog suddenly remembered he had one more job to do, the most important one. His ears flicked, his body stiffened, his nose lifted a fraction, like he caught a scent nobody else in the entire terminal could detect. Then, he bolted. Not a sprint, not a lunge, a launch. Atlas tore away with so much force Cole almost face-planted trying to hold the leash. The leather ripped through Cole's already shredded palm, reopening the cuts from earlier. "Atlas! Hey, stop!" Cole stumbled after him, slipping on tile still wet from spilled coffee and dropped water bottles. But Atlas wasn't stopping. Not even close. He shot past Miranda, barely a foot away, but didn't give her a single glance, which panicked Cole even more. Because if Atlas wasn't going for her, then whatever he smelled, it was worse. The K-9 rocketed toward the back of Terminal 4, claws clicking on the floor like gunshots. Passengers jumped aside, luggage toppled, a security barrier clanged to the floor. A TSA guard shouted, "Dog through secure! Someone stop him!" Yeah, good luck with that. Atlas slammed his weight against the restricted service door. It flew open as a janitor came out, almost launching the poor guy into another dimension. Cole shoved past him. Move, move, let him work! Then the world changed. Behind that door was the industrial belly of the airport. The part passengers never see. The part that looks like a monster built from steel, belts, gears, and noise. The baggage labyrinth. Everything in there was moving. Everything was loud. Everything smelled like oil, metal, rubber, and thousands of travelers' belongings crushed into rolling waves. Atlas dove straight under the first conveyor system like he'd been training for this since birth. Atlas. Wait! Damn it! Cole swore, jumping onto the metal platform and nearly getting slapped in the face by a flying duffel bag. The belts thundered overhead, rattling so violently you could feel it in your teeth. Warning lights flashed red. Machines roared like dragons waking up angry. Atlas didn't care. He weaved between belts, ducked under crossbars, sprinted along the catwalk's edge like he wasn't a 90-pound dog, but some kind of four-legged missile fired with intent. Cole followed, but he was losing ground. Humans weren't built for this place. This was a machine's world, a maze designed to swallow mistakes whole. Atlas disappeared under the massive high-capacity transfer system. A belt so big it sounded like an earthquake. Cole slid under it on his elbows, feeling rubber burns through his jacket. Atlas, talk to me! What do you got? A bark echoed, sharp, urgent, then another, then a third. The detection pattern. Cole's heart dropped. Show me, boy. Where? Atlas was already yanking a Navy suitcase off a belt 3 feet above his head. He slammed his paws against it, barking furiously. A TSA tech scrambled over, panting. What's in it? Times 100. Cole didn't hesitate. Bag 1. He marked it with a neon chalk stick. Atlas didn't wait. He spun, nose twitching, claws clattering, diving deeper into the system. The belts narrowed back here. Faster. Far more dangerous. A pair of rollers nearly ate Cole's sleeve, pulling him in before he yanked himself free. Atlas darted up a side ramp. Then, bam! Slammed his nose into a forest green backpack. Cole shouted, Bag 2! The tech's voice cracked. What is this bastard running? A network? Cole didn't answer. He couldn't, because Atlas was moving again. This time he jumped, actually jumped, across a split-level conveyor. His back legs barely cleared the teeth of the belt. Cole swore, loudly. Atlas! Don't you dare die on me! Atlas landed, skidded, recovered, and rammed his nose into a graphite suitcase humming slightly from some internal circuitry. Bag 3. Cole felt sweat freezing on his neck. Then Atlas stopped. Not abruptly, just tensed, like every muscle in his body pointed in one direction. The international outbound belt. No! No, no, no! Damn it, Atlas, don't! But the dog was already airborne. He jumped onto the lowest belt, the one feeding luggage into the loading tunnel of a flight departing in 6 minutes. Atlas shoved past suitcases, nose in overdrive. Then his body locked, rigid, certain. He barked twice. Bag 4. And that's when the full horror hit. 4 bags, 4 components, 4 planes, each one carrying a different piece of an FAA radar sabotage system. One plane would have gone blind. One would have shot off course. One would have vanished from radar. One would have been fed false telemetry. 4 potential mass casualty events. 4 national disasters. Cole grabbed Atlas, breath shaking hard. "You just saved 4 damn flights," he whispered, forehead pressed to the dog's collar. But Atlas wasn't done. He tugged forward again. Not warning, not fear. Urgency. Like he was telling Cole, this wasn't all of it. Someone set this up. Someone planned it. Someone is still here. Cole's chest tightened. Okay, buddy. Lead the way." Because if Atlas could track the mastermind through this machine hell, it meant the real hunt was about to begin. The scariest part wasn't even the 4 bags Atlas found. It was what happened right after. Because while Cole was still catching his breath, still gripping Atlas's harness like he was holding on to a lifeline, one of the TSA techs yelled from the upper platform, "Officer, cameras just picked up a new target. She's moving toward the maintenance wing." Cole wiped sweat and grit from his eyes. "Who?" The tech zoomed in on the security monitor. The pixelated blur sharpened, and then everyone froze. A woman filled the frame, black hair pulled tight, eyes like molten steel cooled into ice, a face built for calm, not kindness, and a stride so controlled it looked unnatural in the chaos of an airport meltdown. The name burned across the screen. Orchid U.S. National, East Coast Cybercrime Division's most wanted expert in FAA system infiltration. Suspected orchestrator of 2 airspace near misses. Cole's stomach dropped. "No way. She's here?" The tech swallowed. "Sir, that's the woman who planted the rig." And Atlas didn't need anyone to explain, because the moment Orchid's face appeared on screen, he stiffened. He lowered his head. Then he tore free like the earth itself shoved him forward. "Atlas, go, track!" Cole shouted, sprinting after him. And the chase was on. Orchid moved fast. Not panicked fast, calculated fast. Time 200 mems. Atlas followed the scent she left behind. Sweat, metal dust, whatever chemical she used on that smoke canister, weaving through the industrial maze with terrifying precision. Cole chased after, lungs burning, boots slamming metal grates. They tore through. A 600-meter maintenance tunnel cold, echoing, fluorescent lights flickering like dying fireflies. Atlas's paws slapped the concrete louder than Cole's boots. The tunnel stank of oil, dust, and those weird airport chemicals that never actually clean anything. Orchid glanced back once, eyes narrowing, then sprinted harder. Smoke grenade. Hiss. A thick cloud burst open. "Keep going, Atlas! Push!" Cole yelled, covering his nose. Atlas dove into the fog like it was nothing. Cole nearly ate the floor trying to follow. Explosions of steam. Machines pounding like mechanical hearts. Pipes overhead dripping condensation like cold rain. Orchid vaulted over a railing, rolled, sprinted under a massive compressor wheel. Atlas didn't vault. He launched. His hind legs hit metal, skidded, but he kept moving. Even the machines seemed scared of him. Cole slipped under a pipe, smacked his shoulder into a gearbox, swore loud enough to echo through the bay. "Damn it! Stop running!" Orchid didn't slow. Not even a little. She kicked a toolbox behind her. Wrenches and bolts rained like metal hail. Atlas ducked and barreled through. Cole nearly tripped into a fan vent. A canyon of steel crates, stacked 3 stories high, dim lights flickering like dying bees. Orchid darted between them. Living, shadow, silent feet, sharp breath. She knew this place. She had a map in her head. Atlas. He didn't need one. He tore after her, claws clacking on metal like gunshots. She shoved a half-ton rolling container sideways. The thing screamed across the floor. Cole shouted, "Atlas, watch!" The container tipped. Time slowed. Steel falling like a collapsing tower. A shadow swallowing Atlas whole. Atlas leaped. 0.1 seconds before the crate obliterated the grate beneath it. He flew sideways, hit the floor hard, rolled, and kept running. Cole froze in shock. "How are you still moving?" But Atlas didn't answer. He sprinted into the next corridor. Narrow, long, lit by a sickly yellow bulb flickering like it feared the dark. Orchid was 30 feet ahead, breathing hard now. Boots scraping metal. She glanced back, saw Atlas closing in, and her calm cracked. Just a little. She ran harder. Atlas growled, then exploded into a final sprint. Cole skidded around the corner, nearly losing his footing. "Get her, Atlas!" It happened in one impossible movement. Orchid reached the final door, slapped a code panel. It beeped. Atlas slammed into her full force. Her back hit the metal floor so hard, the sound bounced off the walls. He pinned her by the shoulder, one paw locking her down, teeth inches from her throat. Cole caught up seconds later, chest heaving, blood dripping from his palm again. Orchid struggled to breathe, eyes wide with shock and disbelief. How is that dog still alive?" she rasped. Her eyes flicked toward her jacket pocket. "That canister should have killed him." Cole froze. "What canister?" Orchid smiled. The smile of someone who knows secrets you don't. "He walked through it," she whispered. "I watched him. He should be dead." Atlas growled deeper, pressing her harder into the floor. The world tilted for Cole. Whatever Orchid threw earlier, whatever chemical she used, Atlas inhaled it. Atlas survived it. Atlas worked through it. And now, with her pinned under a dog she couldn't defeat, Orchid finally looked afraid. But the people watching through airport cameras, they didn't feel fear. They felt something else. Triumph. But the kind that leaves you shaking. Because heroes aren't supposed to outrun machines, dodge steel crates, or survive chemical traps. But this one did. Everyone thought that after Atlas took down Orchid, after he dodged steel crates the size of small cars, ran through poison smoke, tore through half the airport's industrial guts, and saved 4 planes full of people, everything would finally calm down. Yeah. Nope. The world wasn't done with him. Because what happened next wasn't chaos. It wasn't fear. It wasn't adrenaline. It was history. 2 weeks later, on a cold January morning, Cole and Atlas walked toward the Trenton Federal Courthouse in New Jersey. Snow dusted the ground, flags snapped in the wind, and reporters lined the walkway like they were waiting for a president, not a dog. Cameras clicked. Microphones shot forward. "Officer Warren, how does it feel? Is it true the K-9 survived a chemical weapon? Does Atlas understand what he did?" Cole didn't answer. Atlas didn't break stride. And the thing is, Atlas wasn't dramatic about any of it. He just walked beside Cole with this calm, heavy-footed confidence, like everything was normal, like saving the eastern airspace was just another Tuesday. They reached the marble steps. Ava and Dr. Lauren Carter were already there, bundled coats, tear-bright eyes, holding each other like they weren't letting go ever again. Ava lifted a mittened hand. "Hi, Atlas." He brushed his head against her arm as he passed. Not showy, not loud, just quiet affection. Like he was saying, "You're safe. That's all that matters." Inside courtroom 4A, people filled every bench. Officers, cybersecurity teams, pilots, TSA workers, airport staff, families from the flights Atlas saved. Even random new Jersey locals who drove 2 hours just to be there. And the second Atlas walked through those double doors, everyone rose, all at once. A wave, not politely, not because of court protocol, not because someone told them to. They stood like soldiers watching their commander return from war. Cole blinked, caught off guard. Atlas paused, not confused, not startled, just still, taking it in like the world had suddenly grown quiet for him. Judge Amelia Monroe entered from the side door, gray suit, hair pulled into a tight bun, posture straight enough to slice paper. But when she saw Atlas, even she softened. She sat. The room sat. Except Atlas. He didn't sit until Cole tapped his side. Then he folded neatly onto the floor, tail brushing the polished wood. Judge Monroe adjusted her glasses and looked directly at him. "On January 14th, she began, voice steady but warm. "This K-9 saved not just an airport." Everyone leaned forward like they didn't want to miss a breath. "He protected the entire eastern airway corridor." A hush fell, a wide, reverent silence, before applause erupted like thunder, like actual thunder. Not polite clapping, not courtroom-approved clapping. It was a sheer roar. People stood again. Some wiped tears. A pilot clapped so hard his hands turned red. A TSA officer pressed a fist to her mouth to stop herself from sobbing. Judge Monroe lifted a hand, smiling despite trying to look composed. "And therefore," she continued, The New Jersey District Court formally recognizes K-9 Atlas for extraordinary service, unmatched courage, and an act of national protection rarely seen in either human or canine history. More applause. Louder. Wilder. Cole's throat tightened. But Atlas? Atlas didn't wag, didn't bark, didn't react like a celebrity. He just looked up at Cole. Just him. Like the world wasn't cheering. Like the judge wasn't talking. Like none of this mattered except one thing. Cole swallowed hard and whispered, "Good boy." Atlas's ears perked. A tiny tail thump hit the floor. That was all he needed. Judge Monroe wasn't done. She gestured for someone at the back. "Dr. Carter," she said softly, "you may come forward." Lauren stood, holding Ava's hand. They walked slowly. Ava in her little boots, clutching Atlas's purple ribbon, the one she'd tied onto his collar days earlier. When they reached him, Ava knelt, knees touching the cold floor, and wrapped both arms around Atlas's neck. He leaned into her, eyes closing for one soft second. A second of peace after weeks of noise. Lauren knelt beside her, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered. "You brought my child home." The courtroom went silent again. Even the judge wiped under her eye. And Cole had to bite the inside of his cheek to keep it together. Atlas sat still as a statue, shoulders broad, breath slow and steady, letting the mother and daughter cling to him like he was the anchor in the middle of a storm. Because he was. Judge Monroe lifted her gavel lightly. "This hearing," she said, "is not about guilt or punishment today." She looked at Atlas. "It is about honor." Bang! The sound echoed through the chamber like a salute meant for a soldier. The room rose once more. Another wave of applause, stronger than the first. Atlas nudged Cole's hand with his nose. Cole smiled through wet eyes. "Yeah, buddy," he whispered. "You earned every bit of this." And for a moment, just one golden moment, everyone in that room felt the same thing Cole did. This wasn't just a dog. This was a protector, a hero, a guardian of the sky. After the courtroom applause finally faded, after the judge stepped down, after people lined up just to touch Atlas like he was some kind of living monument, you'd think the emotional roller coaster would finally slow down. But it didn't. Because the moment they stepped out of courtroom 4A into the cold January afternoon, something small, tiny, really, changed everything. Ava tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, can I give him something?" Lauren blinked, still trying to keep herself together. "Of course, sweetheart. What do you need?" Ava reached into her jacket pocket with both hands, like she was afraid the wind might steal whatever she was protecting. She pulled out a folded piece of yellow fabric. Not bright, not shiny, just soft, worn, frayed at the edges, a scrap of the backpack that nearly destroyed their lives. Cole froze when he saw it. So did Atlas. Ava held it gently, the way kids hold butterflies they don't want to crush. She walked toward Atlas, slow, careful, like this moment needed quiet to exist. The courthouse steps were noisy behind them, reporters murmuring, boots crunching snow, police radios buzzing. But around the four of them, Cole, Atlas, Ava, Lauren, the world felt muted, like everything leaned back to give the moment space. Ava knelt in front of Atlas. "Atlas," she whispered, like she wasn't sure if she had permission to say his name. He lowered his head immediately, ears softening, gaze locked on her the way he'd look at a wounded animal that trusted him. Ava smoothed out the yellow cloth with her tiny fingers. Her voice shook, not from fear this time, but from something deeper. "This was, from my backpack," she said softly. "You know, the scary one." Cole exhaled harshly through his nose, remembering the device, the danger, the way Ava cried holding that same fabric. Ava swallowed. I didn't want to keep it. It made me remember too much." A tiny pause. Like being alone and thinking Mommy wasn't coming. Lauren covered her mouth, tears spilling instantly. Ava continued, fingers trembling but steadier with every word. "But then you—" She looked up at Atlas, eyes shining. "Then you found me." Atlas blinked, slow, understanding without needing language. "So, I thought," Ava whispered, lifting the ribbon, "maybe if I give this to you, then when you remember me, you won't remember the scary part. You'll remember the brave part." Her voice cracked on the word brave. She leaned forward, looping the yellow cloth around the strap of Atlas's tactical harness. It slipped once, her hands shaking, but she tried again, tying a small, imperfect knot. A kid's knot, a survivor's knot, a knot that said, "I got hurt, but I'm still here." Atlas watched her the entire time without moving a muscle. He waited until she finished tying it, like he knew it was ceremonial, like he understood it wasn't just fabric. It was a piece of her heart being handed to him. When she stepped back, unsure, Atlas did something no one expected. He bowed his head. Not training, not command, not K9 protocol. A bow. Respect. Acknowledgement. A dog's version of "I see you." Then he nudged his nose, so gently, into her hand. Ava's breath caught. A tiny gasp. Not fear. Emotion. She pressed her forehead to his. "Thank you," she whispered, voice crumbling but brave, "for coming to find me." Cole had to turn away, the sting behind his eyes hitting hard. Lauren didn't bother turning. She cried openly, hand over her heart like she was feeling it cave in and heal at the same time. Reporters lowered their cameras. Some even wiped their own eyes. This wasn't news. This was human. Ava stepped back to her mother, wiping her cheeks with her sleeve. Lauren kissed the top of her head. "You're so strong," she whispered. Ava nodded, staring at the yellow ribbon now hanging from Atlas's gear. "Do you think," she asked softly, "he'll remember me, Mommy?" Lauren smiled through her tears. Oh, sweetheart, he'll never forget you. Cole knelt beside Atlas, running a hand along the dog's shoulder. That ribbon stays on, he said softly, no matter what. He earned it. And so did you. Ava smiled. That small, half-broken, half-reborn smile kids get after surviving something way too big for their age. Atlas gave one single thump of his tail. Not excited, not playful, just a promise. I remember you. I will always remember you. And for the first time since the entire nightmare began, Ava didn't look afraid. She looked hopeful. You'd think the yellow ribbon moment was the emotional peak. You'd think nothing could top that. Yeah. No. The next morning hit harder than all of it. Because when the world is finally quiet, like really quiet, that's when healing sneaks in. It was 6:07 a.m., Philadelphia National Airport, barely awake, the sky still holding on to the last shade of night. That deep blue right before sunrise starts warming everything up. The air was freezing, sharp enough to bite your lungs, but clean in that way winter mornings sometimes are. Cole zipped his jacket, clipped Atlas's vest, and muttered, "Come on, buddy. Let's breathe for a minute." Atlas rose immediately. No hesitation, no stiffness, like he'd been waiting for this small slice of calm. They walked out toward runway 9, the long stretch of asphalt where departures usually thundered loud enough to make your ribs shake. Not now. Not this early. Just silence. A whole runway made of quiet and gold-tinged frost. As the sun began climbing over the Appalachian Ridge, the light hit the snow with a shimmer. Not bright, not blinding, just soft. Soft enough to feel like forgiveness. Cole exhaled slowly. You feel that? He whispered. Feels like the world hasn't remembered it's a mess yet. Atlas brushed his leg, not answering, but somehow answering. They kept walking until the terminal buildings looked small behind them. Just a man and his dog, footprints pressed into powdery snow, breath hanging in the air like smoke signals, and then, rate medium. Cole! Wait! A tiny voice cracked across the runway. A small figure in a puffy silver jacket came sprinting, almost slipping on the ice. Ava. And behind her, though, a very out-of-breath Lauren. Cole blinked. What are you two doing out here this early? Ava didn't answer. She didn't need to. She ran straight into Atlas, wrapped her arms around his neck like she was hugging the last warm thing left on Earth. Atlas froze for a second, then lowered his head, leaning gently. That same soft, quiet acceptance he only gave to people who had earned a place in his heart. Ava's voice was tiny, shaky, but brave. Don't forget me, okay? Her breath puffed white between each word. Atlas looked right at her. One ear perked, one ear sideways, and then one bark. Short, light, but so certain it echoed like a promise across the empty runway. Ava smiled, a smile that didn't belong to a kid who'd been used as a weapon 2 days earlier. a smile that belonged to a kid who finally felt safe. Lauren caught up, hands on her knees, trying to breathe and cry at the same time. She looked at Cole, then at Atlas, then at her daughter. "You didn't just save her life," she whispered, voice raw. "You saved the part of her that believed in people." Cole didn't know what to do with that. He just swallowed hard and nodded. Then he crouched beside Atlas, rubbing behind his ears. "You hear that, big guy? You didn't just rescue her. You rescued the part of me that believed good still stood a chance in this world." Atlas leaned his head against Cole's shoulder, a slow, grounding weight, a dog's way of saying, "I had you. I always will." A gust of wind blew across the runway, carrying the cold, but also something calmer, gentler, like the first breath after a nightmare when you realize you're awake, you're safe, and the monsters can't reach you anymore. Ava let go reluctantly, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "I'm gonna miss him," she said, voice wobbling but certain. Lauren wrapped an arm around her. "He's gonna miss you too, sweetheart. But look." She pointed at the yellow ribbon on Atlas's harness. "He carries you with him now." Ava beamed, a huge, bright, fearless grin. The kind of grin only a kid can have after surviving something enormous and choosing to believe the world is still good anyway. Cole stood, looking from Ava to Lauren to the horizon. "You two heading out today?" Lauren nodded. "We're flying home. Finally." Cole exhaled softly. "Good. You deserve peace." Lauren squeezed his arm, gentle, grateful, shaking just a little. "You and Atlas gave us that," she whispered. "Don't ever forget it." The sunrise kept rising, washing everything in gold, the kind of gold that feels like a beginning. Ava gave Atlas one last pat. "Bye, Atlas. You're my hero forever." Atlas wagged his tail, not wild, not excited, time thousands. Just once, slow, sure, like a promise etched into the morning light. Lauren took Ava's hand, and together they walked back toward the terminal, silhouettes glowing in the new day. Cole watched them leave. Atlas sat beside him, shoulder pressed against his leg, quiet and steady. "Yeah," Cole murmured. "Let's head toward the sun too, partner." And the two of them started walking. Man and dog, side by side, into the gold, into the quiet, into whatever came next. A new beginning, built out of fear, courage, survival, and a yellow ribbon tied by a little girl who refused to stay broken. Now tell me honestly, if you were standing on that runway watching the four of them in that sunrise, would you feel relief, gratitude, hope, or something you can't even name?